Yo guys, what's going down? It's MC Noble here. I am just dropping in with a stream to let you guys know that my Keeping It Core gig is actually 1 month away exactly today. So for those of you who are not in the loop, basically last year I got tagged in a post on Facebook. This is no word of a lie. And a guy was looking for some MCs to fill up a lineup for a pretty reasonable size event. Nothing like major, but this is still going to be like one of the biggest bookings that I've ever taken. And it's down in Longbridge in Birmingham. And I got tagged in the post and I sent the guy a demo. I said, look, I've seen that you're looking for places. I got tagged in your post. IMC, blah, blah, blah. This is what I can do. He listened to probably about 5 minutes of the demo. And with that, I was booked and being added to the flyer. So basically, it was a quick way to get a gig. I was kind of like, it didn't take much convincing to the guy that I was, the perfect person for the gig, or, that I could fill up his lineup. And I've been looking forward to this ever since, but there's never really been much point hyping it up, because I've known about this gig for so long that basically if I just started hyping it up weeks ago, before Christmas, etc., it would have just got boring to people and people would have been sick of it before the event happened. Now, don't get me wrong, on Facebook I've shared this poster a fairly decent amount of times, because I'm obviously happy that I'm getting the chance to do this opportunity, and that I'm getting the chance to do this booking. But if I'd have made streams talking about this gig months ago, it would have just got drowned out and boring. Plus I've obviously had other gigs that I've talked about and obviously been to the venues and done them. So this kind of like, as much as I get excited for all my gigs, I kind of like to in somewhat way do them in order. I kind of like to sort of hype up the event that I'm doing next, if that makes sense. Not the one, not have say 3 or 4 events coming up, but talk about the 5th event, if that makes sense. It's kind of like pushing the others to the side, because whatever gig I get, I treat them all fairly. I'm excited to get every single one. I'm honoured to do everyone, and as much as this lineup is a beast of a lineup and probably one of the biggest ones I've ever done, it's not better than any other gig that I've done, because I take all my gigs, I treat all my gigs fairly, and I'm excited for everyone, and I believe, wherever I'm booked, whatever I do, I will promote that event for it. So to me, I'm just happy with the opportunity. But like I say, this is now the next event, so I am going to be hyping this up quite a bit, because we are actually, like I say, today 1 month away. And for those of you who are wondering, just quickly about this background image, this is not my setup, by the way. This was just a picture online. Some of you might have thought, because I do actually have vinyl decks now, if any of you guys didn't know. I got a pair of vinyl decks given, well, not given, I bought them for a steal of a price. But if you actually zoom in on these decks, they are actually Technic decks of them ones. I actually got some Sony decks, and I don't have CDJ stands, and also these CDJs, as you can obviously see, are actually Pioneer. They're like the Pioneer Nexus 200, I think. Which, don't get me wrong, if someone said right now, for a steal of a price, have a pair of Nexus CDJs, I'd take them in a heartbeat. But I'm very relatively happy with my setup, obviously. The only thing that really annoys me about my setup is I can't have both the vinyl decks like next to the mixer. Like I need to get some CDJ stands. It's awkward because one, like the right sided CDJ on my setup actually just doesn't fit on the table, so I have to put it on the other bit, but it kind of looks awkward, like you don't see a guy mixing vinyl and having like one turntable at the left and having the turntable at the right, like on an angle type thing. But you know, I'm still, you know, really happy, obviously, but you know, it doesn't take much to really make a CDJ stand. If I'm honest, my friend made one a couple of weeks back. He made a CDJ stand for his CDJs, and they actually looked really well. They actually worked really well, and his CDJs stayed in place as well. And I think, to be honest, CDJs slightly look a bit better when they're on a stand as well. But anyway, that's not really the whole reason why we're doing this stream. It's to obviously promote keeping it core. But I know some of you knew that I got vinyls, obviously, and would have thought like, whoa, have you done that to your setup? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's how I would love a setup to look like, apart from I would probably move the mixer a little bit more forward. It looks a little out of place to me. It looks a bit more like it's underneath that, what I believe is a laptop stand. If I'm honest, I would pull the mixer a little bit more forward. When I have a setup, I love to have everything sort of evenish, if you like. I like having the, like with my CD decks at the moment, they're directly next to the mixer. I hate it like if the mix is a little bit further back. I love having everything lining up just perfectly next to each other. And with the vinyl decks, that's kind of the thing that annoys me, that I have to have the other deck on the angle, because they won't all fit in a row, which, you know, again, it's a bit of a shame, but these things obviously happen. But at some point, when I can get a little bit of wood together, I'm going to make a nice little CDJ stand, and we should be all good. But yeah, so keeping it core is obviously 1 month away today. It's going to be a wicked event. Like I said, the guy got me on board very quickly, and he really enjoyed the demo, and he just really, you know, he's been on board with having me on board ever since. And you know, I've done a fair bit of promotion to this event as well. Like I say, I haven't promoted it like over the roof, because, you know, I got to know about doing this gig like so long ago. It was like November time last year that I got to know that the flyer come out, but it was probably like October time, late October, early November, when I found out I was doing this gig. I remember being in town at the time. I was having a shopping downtown. I think it was a Thursday to the exact, when I sent the guy a demo, and we just got messaging, and I remember at the time like, oh my days, he's agreed to put me on. And I was thinking like, it just didn't seem so real then. And then obviously when the poster come out and there was my name, Noble, at the bottom, I was just like, you know what, that's just absolutely fantastic. It's just amazing that they put me on. And it's like I say, this gig for me could just open so many more doors to actually get even further into the scene, which is obviously what I want to do, you know. But you know, obviously, you know, this could be an event that could drastically change things for me in a good way. There's people doing this event that are hooked to all kinds of different connections, you know, Ravers Reunited, for example, Core Blimey, Charlie's Beats. So once I'm out there showing what I can do on the mic within this night, this could connect me to so many other nights within, you know, Leicester, Sheffield, you know, everything round the sort of like West Yorkshire, and so many different places, and, you know, within the hardcore scene, and just so much could go on that could just really give me my ability to step out there, which is what I really want to do, you know, the dream and the passion. and I just feel like this is kind of that one event where it could either go drastically wrong or it could either go drastically good. And like I say, I could, you know, it could open up more doors to more connections, and people who maybe like see me on that night might just recommend to somebody, you know, blah blah blah, you should get that MC Noble guy, he came to the last Keeping It Core and he was absolutely wicked, you know. Or there again at the other hand, you know, it could just be like any other normal night. Do the night, yeah, you did alright, and then, you know, don't hear anything off anybody else through it. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you know, it's, you just got to take it as you obviously see it. But, you know, it's a month away. I wanted to do something to say that it was a month away. It's going to be good for me to go down to that end, and like I say, if it opens, you know, more doors for me, that's going to be a plus side on the bonus. And I'm looking forward to meeting people. Richie Corby and the Lady Vibes, they did our radio station, and they used to do Wednesdays on our radio, but had to stop due to I think they had something like a kid or something at football training, so they took him to football training, which just meant they could no longer make that schedule on the radio. But they're obviously happy to work with us again in the future. Restless, obviously headliner, DJC headliner. Like I say, Yoda, I've heard, you know, from Yoda and Restless. MC Shorty, I've actually spoken with Shorty. He does want to get me down to Leicester at some point, I do believe, even if it's just for like a studio session. I think we're going to have something planned with the Charlie's Beats and with some of the other stuff as well, that I'd love to get involved with. You know, I'm with Buzz, and hopefully it gets quite busy as well. There was a fairly busy, from seeing videos from previous events, it looked like it got fairly busy, looked like it was a good atmosphere, everyone just loving the music, and everybody loving the vibe, which was absolutely fun. Davy Dozy. But this leads me on to my next thing, and this is hardcore music dead? Now, I've been having a lot of debate and a lot of discussion with a friend of mine just recently. We even went to the whole point of having a full-blown argument over this. And people, I always think of the question, is hardcore music dead? Now, some of you people in the comment section could just answer this easily and say, yeah, it's dead, it's nowhere near like it used to be. But the way I see it is, you've got to use the term, you've got to think how you use the term dead. Now, a lot of people who don't follow it could just say, listen, yeah, look, it's dead, it's been dead years, just because you don't, you know, you maybe don't hear about it as much as you maybe would have done years ago. Now, hardcore music had a peak in the 90s. That was, you know, a lot of hardcore DJs, a lot of hardcore producers, a lot of people who were part of the hardcore scene say that the 90s was the heyday for hardcore. And when I say hardcore, the heyday, sorry, I mean like when it was its biggest, when it was a buzz, when hardcore was absolutely, you know, steaming, when it was the best, when the raves were the fullest, when the nights were absolutely booming. And through the 2000s, through the 21st century, into into sort of like, 2000 to 2010, hardcore music didn't actually do too bad either. You know, it sold albums. Clubland Extreme Hardcore, they had, they put festivals on. There was massive raves. There was HTID. Like I say, you had hardcore being played on radio stations late at night. You even saw hardcore songs, appear on the TV, and stuff like that. And from 2010, hardcore did sort of die out. Hardcore did kind of drop, and didn't become as good as it used to be. And some people now say the term that hardcore is dead. Now, is hardcore music actually dead? And I'm going to simply answer this question, and I'm going to tell you guys that it's not dead. And I'll tell you, and I will back up some reasons as to why hardcore is not dead. So hardcore definitely isn't as big as it used to be. You know, I can vouch for that, and I can say that. But through the last couple of years, I have seen through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, events that hardcore has started to come on the rise again. For example, last year our area, Yorkshire, East Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, for the first time in probably God knows how long, hosted a festival full of hardcore music. Happened in Rotherham, just near Rotherham. I went to the festival, and the festival wasn't packed, but it was busy, and you know it was on a rise again. And Scarborough this year has actually seen an old event called Northern Uproar return. Now, Northern Uproar started in Scarborough years ago. Northern Uproar was massive. It filled Scarborough's nightclubs. People I know had DJ'd there, people I know had MC'd there, and it was an absolutely massive thing for Scarborough. And when the music sort of died out, that event sort of left Scarborough, went on to other towns, and that event is actually coming back to Scarborough, which is absolutely, that's massive. For there must be something improving within the scene for that music event to come back. Chaotic is also returning back to Hull. Now, Chaotic was a massive hardcore event years ago in Hull that, like Northern Uproar, filled events, had headliners, had absolutely packed nights run, full weekenders that would go on Friday and Saturday. People would just, be on it 24/7 with the hardcore music. They'd even host events midweek that would actually fill nightclubs. Now, that event is also, returning to our nightclubs in Hull. And apparently, according to the guy who promotes it, it is here to stay. And also, a guy who mixes hardcore for years, posted on Facebook, not last week, the week before, that somebody who used to be a big part of hardcore was actually returning to hardcore. So somebody who either mixed or was an MC up in the hardcore scene, someone who was big years ago, has also seen the improvement within the scene rising and has come back to the scene. And I also watched a video today where a guy had actually come back to the hardcore scene. This is dating back from 2015. It was an interview with Sharky. You might remember him from the Bonkers albums. And he stated about the hardcore rising again, and he also stated why he came back to hardcore. And the reason why he came back to hardcore was just for the love of the music. So yes, so let's be theoretical right now, right? So yes, you don't hear hardcore on the radio. You don't walk into your local Tesco's or your local Asda and see brand new HDID CDs as you walk through the door. You don't see hardcore on telly. You don't see it filling stadiums and arenas, all through the summer. But people who used to be a big part of hardcore and people who have a love for hardcore are coming back to hardcore for the love of it. And the whole point of the hardcore scene is, it's not about the profit you make. It's not about, it's not about how much an event can make, or it's not about topping tunes in the charts and having hit singles on Beatport, and it's about the love of the music. And Sharky said he come back because he wanted to mix the music, entertain the crowd, and he just wanted to live the memories of what he lived years ago. And that is the same why other people are coming back to hardcore. For example, some of the DJs that DJ at Stomping, they DJ'd years ago. They maybe weren't massive, but they were well known around the area, did lots of events, saw the heyday of hardcore, and they now come back to Stomping, not because they want to get a massive paycheck, but because they have a love for the music. It's reuniting everybody together, it's getting them back out there to socialise, have a drink, you know, have a kid-free weekend if you like, and just, you know, remember the old days, have a good blast on the decks, get some good recordings from the night, book some headliners obviously, and just enjoy what is a wicked night. So the term, is hardcore dead? No, it's just not as big as it used to be, and if anything, it's not all about the profit. Now, a lot of people have, you know, tried to argue with me and say that it is dead, but if you have a following for it, if you actually enjoy that type of music, and, you know, you join groups on Facebook that specialise in that sort of music, you follow YouTubers and people that, you know, go live on the internet and mix that sort of stuff, which, you know, this is another thing, people mixing hardcore on Facebook, people doing live stream, quite a popular way of events nowadays as well, is to have a studio session and stream it live on Facebook, have, you know, say 4 or 5 different DJs down in a studio and to go live, and, you know, just like an event, there's a page, a flyer gets made with a lineup announced, and they just literally do a studio session. There's like I said, there's one called Charlie's Beats. They've had people like Andy Whitby down, and they go live on Facebook, and that's, you know, that's their source, rather than, you know, worrying as such about, you know, filling a venue, selling tickets. They just, you know, get a bunch of people down to mix. They set up a live stream with their laptop and their OBS, and, you know, they do actually, some of them can actually pull in a fair amount of views, you know, 400-500 views, to over 1,000 views, you know, if there's special guests on there. There was one up in Scotland a while ago, they got Scott Brown doing a live set on Facebook, and, you know, the views were pulling in because he was on that live. You know, he was the, obviously, you know, he was the attraction of the live. You know, everyone, you know, he's big, he's had his heyday, he's massive, but people were watching him, and I was watching, and I could just see the views scraping in, you know, 500, 600, 700, going up towards 1,000, and that, to be truthful with you, it's not bad. It's not a bad amount of views for a live stream. So, you know, I conclude this with the sum that, yeah, it's not as big as it used to be, but when I say the term not as big as it used to be, it's more that it's not about the profit. You know, like I say, we've not seen it in supermarkets, hearing it as such on the radio, but there's still plenty of people that load up FL Studios and do actually produce this sort of music. But you can always let me know down in the comments section, or obviously, what you think. I think some people just say it's dead because they don't, you know, they genuinely don't like the genre of music. But then people will say the same about Marquina, and people will say the same about, you know, Bounce and Donk. They'll say that's all dead. But, you know, even the Bounce, in my opinion, is on a grow again, with Andy Whitby signed to Bounce Heaven and doing, you know, Bounce Heaven podcasts. And, you know, this year I've seen loads of flyers for Bounce events all sort of around Yorkshire, and, you know, even places like Wigan are starting to throw big Bounce events again. You know, Wigan Pier nights in places in Wigan, you know, Wigan Pier reunions from, obviously, when Wigan Pier used to be massive. massive in Wigan, but there's a lot of reunions happening. Obviously Blackpool hosts Pier on the Pier, which is a massive bounce event that takes place on a pier in Blackpool, and when I've seen the videos for that, it's been ram-packed full. So in some ways I'm kind of in a way showing proof that the scene isn't dead. It's just not like it used to be. But in my personal opinion, 100%, and I will argue this all the way, I'll argue with somebody about this all day, it is definitely 100%, say what you think, but it is definitely on a rise again. And I'm not saying it'll ever get to where it'll be, like to where it was. I'm not saying it'll ever become as good as it was again. You know, you probably won't see it sell out arenas again, but there's a love for it, and there will be a lot of nightclubs around the UK that will accept small hardcore nights and bigger hardcore nights. And yeah, you will probably see festivals in a field. The Donfest started as Donfest last year. This year that's already upgraded and come back as the Ultimate Getaway Festival, with Marquina, Bounce and Hardcore. And it's basically like the Ultimate Getaway. They're running the Ultimate Getaway this year to Magaluf, and that lineup is massive. And there's people on there that have rocked hardcore for years. There's Darren Styles, there's Hixie, there's Al Storm, there's Rob IYF, there's people who have, you know, rocked the scene for years. There's Squaddy. Everything is just absolutely massive about that event, and this is why people can argue with me day and night, but the hardcore music is 100% on a rise again. Now, like I say, it probably won't get to where it used to be, but I reckon it could be big again, and I think that there's going to be a lot more good stuff on its way for hardcore, and especially with the streaming aspect of doing events where people stream in a studio and people watch on Facebook. That's a very sort of good way. But like I say, the thing about this music, it's the love of it. It's not about how much dough you make. Like I say, it's about DJs who mixed years ago, who maybe retired or maybe gave up for whatever reason, just coming back, meeting people who they haven't seen for a while, and having a good reminisce about the old days. And there's a good scene in it as well for people who want to get into it as well. I see a lot of young people, a lot of people, kids stomping, people who want to try an MC, people who want to DJ. You know, there's a kid that goes to kids stomping. Well, he's the guy who runs kids stomping. It's his son. He actually mixes bounce and hardcore. His dad's teaching him, and you know, the kid loves it. There's another kid that goes to kids stomping who wants to actually be an MC at the kids stomping and tries to write lyrics down. And you know, there's some form of love for it coming from somewhere again. And like I say, you've got to use the term dead. You know, I always define the word dead, as in something's dead. So, for example, like, if a shop shuts down, you don't then go back into the shop the next week and buy something in that shop. Do you know what I'm saying? If someone dies, you don't go around to their house the next week and have a coffee with them. And if I was to class the term as, you know, the genre of music dead, that's when no one would produce it no more. You know, that's when Darren Styles would put a big long post on Facebook and say he's retiring, and along with everybody else, that's when all the digital websites for buying the, you know, the albums and the singles would all be shut down. That's when events like, you know, Rave is reuniting and Core Blimey would announce that they're no longer running events anymore. That's when the Ultimate Getaway would say, right, we're not going out to Magaluf anymore to, you know, to run the event, as in there's not enough stuff going on in the scene for that to obviously happen. But I thought I would bring up this discussion because I've had an argue various times with people about this, and they've tried to argue that it's dead, and I've tried to show them that it's not dead. It's just not like it was years ago, but it is slowly coming back. And I've got another topic to talk to you guys about, probably in another stream as well, and that is, are CDs dead? because I got into this discussion the other day and I asked a few different people, did they think CDs were dead? Now, unfortunately, a lot of the people that I asked were some form of DJ or had something to do with music, but they all argued for my point and said that CDs aren't dead, and they gave valid reasons why they don't think CDs are dead. Now, just to go over this quickly, you can still buy CDs in a shop. So if you go into your Tesco, you go into your Asda, for example, you go into the electronics section of your supermarket, you can, as a matter of fact, still pick up CDs. And Clubland still do bring out new CDs. Now, unfortunately, they only put the old songs on them. You don't see, like, you know, I used to get Clubland 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. I think they've gone up to like Clubland 28. You don't see them anymore, but you see these like 100%. Now these 100%, they do in some form put on a lot of the same songs on each album, like, you know, Pretty Green Eyes, Set You Free, Shooting Star. They are, to be quite truthful with you, on practically like every CD. So I will vouch for that, and I will say that, you know, Clubland aren't really making, you know, you don't see any new songs on them. But towards the end of the Clubland numbered CDs, you did, as a matter of fact, see some new songs go on them. I remember a CD. I can't remember what the song was, but it was one that was in the charts. It was a chart tune. It was quite a weird one, and they did, as a matter of fact, put like a Clubland version of that song on their CD, and that, to be in all fairness, wasn't that long ago. It would have been like 2013, 14, maybe 2012. Or something like that. I got the CD for my birthday. It was like Clubland 22 or something like that, and it had new songs on it. It did have new songs, and there was one on it. I can't remember what the tune was, but it was a weird song. It was one that I never really liked it that much, and stuff like that. But as a matter of fact, like I say, you can still buy your CDs and your blank discs up in supermarkets. And as a matter of fact, my friend Dave Fallows from Stomping, he makes CD packs from his event, and a lot of people actually buy these CD packs. And he does actually make quite a fair amount of money from these CD packs, which he does put into, you know, planning the next events, etc. You know, headliners, you know, securing that it's going to be a good night. But he doesn't do bad with the CDs. Like, you know, the people don't argue him and say like discs are dead, why don't you just put them on USB? You know, a lot of people are happy with CDs. They buy the CD packs. And CDs are actually a formally good way of having your music, in my opinion. Now, a lot of people argue and say, well, yeah, but right, I don't, you know, I've got Spotify, I can listen to all this digitally, and I don't have to have a massive shelf full of cases and go through each individual case to find a song that I want to play. Now, in my opinion, I prefer choosing my music and looking for it, reading a CD case. I like putting on an album and, you know, maybe having to skip through, you know, skipping through. Sometimes you hear a song you haven't heard for a while, or sometimes you just think, right, I'm going to play that album through, listen to them songs and wait for my song to come on. And hardcore producers as well, going back to hardcore music, still actually do put hardcore music onto discs, and Andy Whitby does. He does Bounce Heaven CD packs. He does USB as well, but he does do something like a free digital, a free hard copy CD pack of his Bounce Heaven. Now, I think if you go ahead and get the digital, like the USB version, you do get the full each individual tracks. So if you are a DJ yourself, you know, you can mix them yourself, but you can still buy a CD pack. You can still buy them as a CD, and people buy them. And you still get a lot of CD players in cars. Some of the more modern ones just have Bluetooth, some of them have Bluetooth and CD, but a lot of people do like just to have, you know, the odd CD for a car. If they're going on a long journey, they can bang a CD on and they can just leave the CD on. For example, some car stereos, you know, will take USB. Obviously, some prefer USB, but CD are actually quite a good way. Now, let's just say, for example, you're running Spotify, blah blah blah. You know, you have playlists and they're absolutely crammed with music. So let's say you've got, you know, I mean, on my Spotify, I've got like 900 and some songs in my saved songs, and I've probably got duplicates over time of the same song on Spotify, but it goes through. You know, I've got hardcore on Spotify, I've got classic house. It all sort of, the playlist goes through what I'm kind of enjoying at the moment. So like, if I'm enjoying the hardcore, you'll see like a load of hardcore songs sort of round the beginning of my Spotify playlist, and then further down you would get into the houses. You know, I added hardcore tunes newer into the playlist as they're what I sort of wanted to listen to. But let's just say, for example, you have a massive Spotify account, or you've got the SoundCloud Pro, or you know, you've got so many playlists on these streaming sites, and let's just say, for example, you get banned from the account for whatever reason, or let's just say you lose that account, or you forget your login. You know, you haven't just lost one song, you've lost like you've lost a playlist full of songs. All that time you added playlists onto a song, you know, onto a folder, you know, hundreds upon thousands of tunes, different playlists. You've lost exactly all of them, you know, tunes. Now let's say, for example, you know, your CD breaks, or let's say you misplace a CD. For example, you know, the disc scratches or the disc snaps, for example. You've lost only that CD and you've still got all your other CDs, but like I say, if you get locked out of a Spotify account, you've lost thousands upon thousands upon thousands of tunes and what you've added. Now, if you want, you know, you could make another Spotify account, blah blah blah, but then you've got to add all the songs again, all the songs, right? All of that time, when the chances are with a CD nowadays, you break that CD, you could probably go onto eBay, go into a second-hand shop, or go into your Tesco, and you could probably buy that CD for a couple of quid. You know, some CDs even go in charity shops for 99p. Some of them, you know, go up to a fiver, £3 maybe at the most for some of them, and you would have that CD back. You'd have all them tracks on it again, just like that. You wouldn't have to go searching for them. And in my opinion, I just think that having CDs are still a good source to have, especially if you're a DJ as well. You know, if you have a USB go down on you, or say a folder hasn't been analysed and you've got the same tracks on a disc, and you can just shove a disc in, boom, you know, you've got your music. But a lot of people still argue with the point today that it's all about the streaming services and that the discs are dead. So I'm gonna definitely make a video about that or a stream or something about that in the future, because there's a rise in vinyl records as well, and I want to start covering more aspects of music upon this channel, reach out further into my love of music and stuff like that. But if you did enjoy this, do hit the like button, let me know what your thoughts are on the discussion. You know, but I think in all fairness we can sort of edit this, because this says here, you know, is hardcore dead, but I think if we just change this, we can say like so let's say is rave music, because you know, a lot of people use the term and say, you know, oh, that didn't save, use the term and say the Marquina's dead, the Donk and the Bounce is dead. You know, a lot of people, you know, I've even heard people say the trance music's dead. So let's just put this, you know, the whole term on So there we go, people. We've edited our title there, look. So there you go, discs, you know, rave music. Change it to rave music because so many people say it for so many different genres. But anyway, keeping it core is 1 month away. That is not my setup in that picture. 1 month today, exactly this time a month away, I'll be down in Longbridge, and I don't think I'll be on the mic at this point, but I will have probably met the event promoter, and I will have, obviously, I'll be hearing whoever's on first. I believe it starts at 6, the event, so I will be definitely hearing event from, you know, banging tunes, and somebody on the mic, so that'll be absolutely wicked. So yeah, make sure you do like, make sure you do comment, make sure you do share, and we will see you guys in the next one.